panel discussion of the day. It's about budget to bespoke Pune housing demand dynamics. I'll first introduce our moderator and then I'll introduce our speakers in alphabetical order and I'll request them to come and join me on stage together, all of you. Ladies and gentlemen, to moderate this session, we have with us today Aditi Wadhwe, President, Sales, Residential, Anurag Property Consultants Private Limited. Aditi has been engaged in real estate consulting, debt, equity fundraising for real estate projects, organization, reorganization, control, processes and implementation, consulting for real estate developers. She also is responsible for investment sales and REIT advisory. To talk about our speakers in alphabetical order, ladies and gentlemen, today we have with us Anurag Goel, Director of Operations, Goel Ganga Development. Anurag ji is a seasoned second-generation young entrepreneur who leads the operations at Goel Ganga Development and has a legacy of over 40 years and has forayed into diverse business verticals like education, logistics, health, energy, and built to suit industrial buildings and warehouses for MNCs and listed companies as well. We also have with us today J.K. Bhosle, Director, Amanora Park Town. J.K. Bhosle ji is an economist by training but worked in the industry in corporate planning, project and general management areas, in top management, in steel, engineering, telecom, energy and real estate areas as well. He was also an advisor to Feedback Ventures, the World Bank, ILO and Maharashtra Economic Development Council, mainly on infrastructure areas including the state government's township policy. We also have with us today Mohit Goel, Joint Managing Director, Goel Properties, the beacon of inspiration who leads from the front. Mohit ji is the man who has ably taken the legacy of Goel Properties to new heights. An alumnus of the renowned Bayes Business School, London, formerly Cass Business School, Mohit ji epitomizes the fine values of the organization and a man with diligent foresight, exemplary decision-making, who has a keen eye for the future and an incredible vision. We also have with us today Nitin Gupta, founder and managing director, Maestro Realtech. Nitinji's career spanning 2 decades from finance to real estate with firms like India Infoline, ICICI Lombard and Royal Sundaram transition to real estate, and reached new heights with leaders like Clovermark, Vascon and Lodha. Nitin Gupta expertise lies in organizational development, sales growth and brand positioning as well. At Maestro, he continues to lead and innovate, driving partners towards new avenues of success in the real estate sector as well. We also have with us today Rahul Bansal, who is the co-founder at Propacity. Rahul Bansal is passionate about building tech-enabled businesses in emerging markets. A real estate and technology enthusiast with a love for solving complex problems, Rahul is helping real estate professionals to scale faster than ever before. Under his able guidance, Propacity is creating a suite of products that enables real estate businesses of all sizes to improve, evolve, and go to that next level. We also have with us today Vipul Agrawal, MD and CEO, SAA. Vipul ji, a second-generation entrepreneur, has explored and worked across different verticals and subcategories within the real estate industry, from development, construction, and customer acquisition to even banking and legal procedures. Now, under his guidance, the 25 years plus old organization has branched out into various domains, from commercial properties to land verticals. Ladies and gentlemen, I can keep going on and on with the introductions. Such is the legacy of all our speakers. And to honor that legacy, can I please request all of you to clap loudly as I welcome our esteemed guests over here on stage, all of you, for the first panel discussion. Thank you so much, everybody. Give it up for all of them over here. Thank you so much. Being such a wonderful, wonderful audience. Thank you. Welcome all of you. Pleasure. Ladies and gentlemen, the magic of 7, the Hum Saath Saath Hai movement of real estate over here in Pune. Give it up once again for them, please, everybody over here in this room. Thank you so much. And over to you, all the experts over here. Thank you.
Thank you so much to Reality Plus for setting this up. I look forward to these panel discussions because these are the rare times when I get to grill. my clients on, and my colleagues of the industry on the matters that bother me, such as why are we the city that is so less in terms of supply of real estate, and our inventory is dropping drastically, some 20% in the last CY. Why are we the city which is not seeing as much walk-in on our sites when there is less supply than there should have been? Why are we the city which is growing in value of transactions in residential real estate per annum, but not really in volume as far as the last few years are concerned? And why are we the city which is the only non-capital city of a state always featuring in top few cities in this country? Without sort of getting into too much of introduction, I think I really wanted to look at this panel from the perspective of literally budget to bespoke, right? And let's start with the budget end of affairs. What is budget, in our opinion, now? And are we even constructing it in our august city? Are we even able to deliver anything that can be close to budget? Mr. Malpani just said that we need at least 4,500 rupees for construction. How does this sort of math work? And I'm happy for you, Mohit, or yourself, or even Rahul, if you wanted to start. Is there a tech wand that you can wave at us and make this possible? I think if you guys can sort of kick this discussion off with the budget end of things.
So, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Mohit Goyal. Budget. Pune is a middle-class city, so to say, because we have people migrating from all across the neighboring cities. Pune is the go-to city for everybody because of the affordable factor of cost of living, having good social infrastructure, having education, having opportunity to work. So from that aspect, Pune is always going to see a lot of influx of people coming into the city. And like the previous panel discussed, yes, the cost of construction or the overall input cost have gone up. And from that angle, the cost of sale is also going to go up. It's only obvious. In the entire discussion, the bottom line of the developer still remains the same. So basically, whatever is increasing in the cost of construction that we are seeing due to the input cost and due to the higher value of land, so the prices of apartments are increasing just to accommodate them. So, today if you see, like last year's data said that the average cost of real estate in Pune would be somewhere around 6,000 rupees a square feet. So today it is about 6,500 to 6,600 rupees a square feet. That's what the GERA report mentions. So how much have we grown? We have barely inflated. Inflation adjusted is the cost of increment, the increased cost of apartment that we are seeing. So I think this is the new definition of budget that we should get accustomed to. And this is the reality of Pune, which we cannot change. So there is no magic wand over here. But yes, this is the fact over here.
So if I may put that into like a number, may I call 60 lakhs, 75 lakh a new budget now for our city?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
70 lakhs for a two-bedroom.
Is that what all of us are saying?
Yeah, 70 lakhs for a two-bedroom should be a decent budget for an affordable, for a budgeted
That's the
project.
new definition of budget. So long as we are clear about it. Can we bring that 70 lakh down to 50 lakh with you?
Hi everyone, I'm Rahul. So that's a great question, Aditi. I have an alternate perspective to it. I feel that I love the way you started this debate in which you were talking about that, hey, Pune is not doing this, Pune is not doing this, Pune is not doing this. What Pune is also not realizing that we are lacking a global appeal as an investment destination that we had. Okay, so as a platform over the last few years, what we have been able to help developers with is to non-hyper-localize the inventory that they have in that particular micro market. Like supposedly, if there is a Pune developer which is coming up in a project with Moshi, how can that particular project be sold all across the country? Why am I saying this in this context? Because I don't think the budgets are going down, the construction cost is going down, the temptation to continuously increase the price is always going to be there. But if you are only targeting the micro markets and figuring out how the local micro market can capture your demand, it is always going to be a problem in order to premiumize the inventory that you are launching. What we essentially have to look at is how, as developers and the entire fraternity, we can create supply and we can create demand through which we can again bring back that entire Pune as an investment destination kind of a hub, which is which is a kind of a tag which is now going back to the tier 2 cities. Like yesterday I was in Nagpur and I was sitting with the Karamchand group from the All Out family, and the conversations that they have of non-hyper localization was very similar to the conversations I used to have with developers about 2-3 years back, where they never used to look at their supply as something that would be absorbed 100% into Pune, right? So that is something that I think we should look at into perspective.
I think that's a great way to think about it. And that sort of leads me to my next two questions. One question is to you. You guys operate also in central India, is essentially Madhya Pradesh and others. So my question to you, if we are non-hyper-localized, or if we are hyper-localized, should be told to us by someone who's not from here. Because we, in a lot of ways, have our blinders on, and we love ourselves, all right? Let's not kid ourselves. It's Pune. So we want to know what you think. And if I may just sort of extend that question to you, is once he answers it, I really want you to look at it from slightly longer perspective in terms of number of years. And from the perspective of, is there some policy level intervention which is required? Because there are going to be people who will want to live in this city who cannot afford a 70 lakh rupees 2 BHK or like a 50 lakh rupee 1 BHK, which all of us find very, very difficult to deliver, let's be honest. Is there something that needs to happen at policy? If he may take this, and then if you can follow it up with that.
So there were a lot of options for me when I was expanding my business from central India to other parts of the country. And studying all the other metro cities, I find Pune, which has been clearly declared by the CRE recent metrics report, that Pune is the most affordable city right now. And the 70 lakhs ticket price, which is the sweet spot of affordable housing, it's selling very fast. Pune is the only city which has sold 44,000 homes, the highest in compared to all the other metro cities. So whatever you are saying, that is okay, but looking from the other perspective, I find Pune as compared to other cities more cosmopolitan, more adaptable to new technologies, new things, new innovations. And people here are very open-minded, and especially the IT hub, the Pune, which is being developed right now, all of the ITs which are coming here, plus the automobile industry which is working here. So this makes Pune the best destination for real estate, I think, and the close proximity to Mumbai. And how Mumbai and Pune are now being connected, I think Pune has a great future. And this will really, it is already on the top as compared to all the other metro cities. I think it will really surpass more compared to other cities.
Slightly digressing from the subject. First, when I saw the subject, budget and etc., so I thought something to do with the central budget or something you're talking, but it's not. Then she bombarded, you will question here the matter, so we will nothing. But I still want to talk about budget. Budgets have nothing to do with the real estate so far. If somebody does study like Aditi or Mr. Gera, whenever people say budget was good, but that year the market has been down. People say budget has been very bad, but people, 22-23 में कुछ budget था नहीं, खास नहीं था, but we had a very really good. So forget about the budget. In fact, budgets are negative. Yesterday also Maharashtra has nothing to offer to real estate really. But what Ajit Dada has offered is a high cost of machinery, this, that, etc. He added. So that, but forget about budget. I think real estate has come. Pune real estate has really come beyond budget impact now. Pune's long-term story is good. Like she asked, what is the future of this thing? Because Pune's per capita income is one of the highest in Indian cities. Its infrastructure is lumping, but something is always happening in the infrastructure that gives a push to them. In terms of houses, one statistic over there, 60% of the growth was in 1 crore and above a year back. So that's the kind of consumer mix we have. In Amanora, when we do, of course, we do most of his luxury thing and some mid-market. Our experience is that up-market thing moves very fast. The velocity of mid-market, everything gets sold, but the velocity is smaller in budget, so-called budget home of Amanora, what we. But those are, like you say, 75 lakhs or this is, and upmarket goes to something like 2.5, 3 crores, 4 crores. But all those bigger things are really happening now. Bigger tickets are really selling. So Pune has this kind of this thing, and Pune's long-term story is good because something is always happening in terms of infrastructure, job creation. The people like builders like them, they are coming up with new ideas and doing something different, and that different area catches this thing. I was thinking 2025 would have been better, but I think still year to years to start, and then we have to see how it goes. So it will pick up this thing in the market. So once again, I think if something like ring roads happen, Purandar Airport happens, these kind of things, the trains, metros are taking shape, metros are moving. All this is going to add to the story of Pune's real estate. And I think it has a good future. And then affordable housing. PMAY has failed in Pune. That's not a good thing to happen actually. Affordability for a common man, that is the real contribution features in. Most of us don't go in a PMI. They go, even the social housing karte वक्त हम लोग last करते हैं township में, and because it's a losing at the moment, the way it is structured. But PMI, that affordable housing for a real sector is Pune is behind, and all of us really should have a look at it, and CREDAI type people should help. There are government projects which are flop, don't do well. We can help them to do better. PM already had a housing, social housing, but the quality was poor. Because this is a government-built offices, houses cannot be good. There will be always quality problem. Where CREDAI type people can help in some kind of PMC, free PMC for government projects, and they do it, and affordable housing should pick up. Rest of the housing will pick up because of its own push and weight and the economy of Pune. Thank you.
Then I want to ask you, be the voice of that customer for me. Tell me, what does the buyer want? We have a lot of opinion here from service providers / developers that exists on this panel. But Nitin, from you, I really want to know, where is the customer at? When you deal with tens of thousands of customers per annum, what does that customer want? Is it really true that more and more people, not aspirationally, but their pocket allows them to be in that 1 crore, 1.5 crore plus region, or are they being pushed into that region because of the lack of availability in the slightly lower segments? Is 70 lakh to 1.5 crore a segment they want to be in, but they're being pushed to 1.5 plus? Where are they? Where are most of those guys? Give us a cheat sheet so that the developers can happily go and sort of place ourselves in that sweet spot. And like I said, like I did earlier, I'm going to sort of add another question from him. Just like you are giving a voice of customer, I want to know, you're the youngest member of the panel, Anurag, and I really want you to tell us what is the Gen Z and young millennial really thinking post-COVID, because all of us think you guys like to buy houses. We don't know how much you can afford. We will hear that from him. But I really want you to sort of then follow on and tell us and be the voice of your generation of customers rather than anything else. Over to you, Nitin.
So, Aditi, first of all, we need to understand and see a lot of things from a different perspective. Today, we have to understand the customer buying behavior has changed and evolved over a period of time. I will try to explain this from an example. We are talking about affordability, the sweet spot of between 60 lakhs to 1.5 crore or even below 60 lakh. Now, I see young college-going students or the freshers who started with their first job with iPhone. And I'm surprised. Even I think twice to buy a 1.5 lakh phone today, and they are flaunting it. So, and that gives me an insight ki now how the younger generation is thinking aspirational. If you look at the data and consumer behavior over the past 30, 40 years, in 1990s, I'll start. The average age of a person who was buying a home was around 45 and 50 years. Now, when it comes to 2000, the average age has come down to, say, 40 years. 2010, it come down to, say, 35 years. Now, the average age in 2025 is around 30 years. So, it's a drastic change in consumer buying behavior and what they want. Everyone, now even cheaper phones are available in the market, but everyone wants an iPhone, everyone wants a smartphone. Similarly, with affordable housing, you have options with 60 lakh, 70 lakh, but really, is the consumer interested in buying those houses? If they are interested, I know developers will sell and will make. So we have to look at the other way around. It's not that developers are not making those inventories. It's that consumers are not showing interest in those kind of inventory. You see markets like Talegaon, there are a lot of inventory supplies there between 25 lakh to 40 lakh rupees. Customers are not ready to move there. Though the distance from Hinjewadi is 30 minutes Talegaon, still they are not ready to buy. And those who wants to buy, obviously government policies, eligibility for bank loan becomes a problem, becomes a challenge. So no one wants to be there. Talking about 1.5 crore and above, are we pushing? If we can buy a phone of 1.5 lakh and above, then certainly when I am buying a home, I will obviously look for those kind of luxury, those kind of amenities, lifestyle, and lot of other things. So that consumer buying behavior is important, and as a developer, as a strategic partners, we need to understand and derive the product, understanding the consumer buying behavior. Thanks.
So, I unfortunately have not had the opportunity to buy my house yet because I live with my family. But I think something that has really come into existence post the pandemic is this concept that I would call experiential living. And what I notice with a lot of my friends and like a lot of people our generation is that we are no more just looking at our individual apartment or home, but we're really very conscious of the community that we're entering into. And with growing nuclear families and people living by themselves, I think they have increasingly become more focused to their surroundings and noticing how their surroundings can really improve the quality of their lives. So I think community living is something that is, I think, the next big step ahead. And I think as developers also, we've become more conscious of how we can create such communities that really enrich the lives of residents living there.
I think that's a great answer. I agree with you. Experiential everything, right? Yes. Experience over things, experience over everything for your generation, and I get it. And that sort of beautifully ties in with what Nitin said, that when someone's going and buying, they are very much demanding the kind of necessities. I wouldn't even call it amenities anymore. The kind of necessities they think have to be a part of the entire ecosystem. Then, Bhosle sir, then is the township the way to go? Because in the house you have a sphere of control. Then you have like a community, a complex, a standalone building, 3 buildings, whatever. So you expand that sphere of control a little bigger. But in a situation like Amanora, the sphere of control is 400 acre large, right? So is the way to attract this generation, catch them in their 30s and allow them to grow into your 4 crore plus kind of a product over 25 years of their growing up? Is that the way forward? Is that what all of us should be thinking about?
The township, I was associated about 25 years back with Maharashtra government when the first township policy was written. And that's where we said 100 acre should be a norm. But, and that's what we should do. But what has happened is most of people have taken a large chunk of land and made a bigger township. But I don't think that's the way. We really have to have 50 acres townships, so which are manageable, where this kind of people, community can be experimented. There's a lot of pain. Of course, there's a lot of pleasure also in a big township. But what we should do, what government should encourage the smaller township, keep some infrastructure load on government, which they're doing anyway for this thing, and then it will be more successful. Bigger township has a problem, issue that you need to spend a lot of money on infrastructure, and you have to pass on to the larger this thing. So go on building, and it really becomes an. See, we built almost 1.8 crores in last 10 years. That become sometimes you feel like it's getting cement jungle. So it is not. There is a lot of greenery in our township, and everybody does that. Where you also work, there's a lot of greenery. But to make it work, there has to be smaller township to be developed, and the government should do that. We are also trying to, at a policy level, doing some kind of a thing. Especially 100-acre land, community aggregating itself is a big thing. So 50 acres is a manageable, 50, 75 acres. So minimum can be made 50 acres, and then you can have a smaller habitats where you can have most of the thing. You don't have to have big mall like Amanora, but you need a good convenience shop and some this thing. That's the kind of a thing. You don't need to have colleges or thing. You can have the schools, preschools, and these kind of a thing. So I think mini township is a better thing, which we have not done as yet. And everybody goes for a bigger thing, and then many people suffer also. There are half the township are languishing right now. They build collected 200 acres, 300 acres, but they are not gone ahead. So township life, community life, as you say, is important in a city like this, and that can be done with a mini township of this kind. We are telling the government to do that, and hopefully one day they will accept those.
I sometimes think this whole cycle of real estate, it's so long. 3 years minimum or more. You've been at Amanora for more than 20 years. And it is now that we are realizing what is the right bite size. I think generations sort of go by before we actually discover the right sizing, right solutioning. But technology, not just your kind of technology, construction technology is not stopping for anyone. We recently had what first 3D printed villa happening in Pune. Sounds great. It actually sounds rather cool. And all of us have seen those videos coming up on Facebook, right? It just goes like that. I don't know. This is me asking you this question as a customer, whether a customer will be reasonably okay to buy. The customer is still not okay with the non-civil work walls in their houses, in high rises. Will the customer be okay with it? My question is also to the developers saying, do we have a thought on how the cost impact is going to be? And is it scalable? Doing a villa is different, and average height of buildings in Pune is 20 stories now, right? Doing multi-story sort of a tower is different. Any of you, I mean, I'm happy to let the entire panel opine on it, because I'm super excited about 3D printing, from earrings to houses. I don't know.
After I saw your 3D write-up yesterday, I spoke to Mr. Deshpande. Hey, let's have one building. I mean, we have a S Foundation kind of a social kind of action. Uska office, uska community, let's do it a 3D this thing. And he said, we'll do it. And he said, yes, do it.
Amen.
Okay.
So I believe that 3D printed buildings is a future for us, distant future for us. Yes, a villa is is okay, because the overall cost, like you mentioned, for a 3D printed structure is humongous right now. So recently I was trying to explore this option that let's make the show flat and the sales office in a 3D printed structure. And when I was trying to evaluate the cost that it was costing me 3 times more. So it didn't really make sense. It was just a novelty that, okay, we are the first 3D printed office, but it didn't make sense. Secondly, making buildings in 3D printing today, I don't think the IS codes, the Indian standard codes that we have, are going to allow us to make buildings, because we come in a seismic zone 4, which already has increased our consumption of steel and concrete in the buildings. So the part of the reason why the cost of construction has also gone up. And so I don't think in the immediate future, yes, as a novelty, maybe few restaurants, few offices, like small single story structures maybe, as a novelty or as an experience setting, like,
Or speed, maybe?
sorry?
Or because you want to do it faster?
Yeah, so, but then these spaces are going to be like, more from commercial use perspective rather than from residential use perspective.
So I would like to say here from a customer's perspective, whenever there is new technology or new thing coming up in any type of field, it always shows resistance first. But if you look back, My One technology was something which was not acceptable at that time, but coming forward, looking forward, it is the one thing that has been accepted by everyone. So it's just a start, but that start is needed. These type of technologies should be we should do such experiments, and we should come up with this kind of thing on a smaller scale first, see the acceptance, see the problems which are there, improvise, and in coming years, in future, maybe 10, 15 years, I think things will change, because that's the only way how we can bring down the cost, how we can speed up the construction, how we can give a better experience, more experience through technology. So I think for future, we have to keep experimenting such things, and customer, not today, not tomorrow, but in future will definitely accept it.
So I think from a construction tech perspective, when it comes to 3D printing, because Prapacity as a platform, we operate primarily in tier 2, tier 3 cities, it could be a great addition, because when it comes to infrastructure being created where you don't have inroads, this is the kind of technology that can actually help us create that entire ecosystem, right? So we work across 18 plus cities across the country. And what we are seeing is that these technologies are often getting adopted in cities which are non-tier 1 like Pune, but I am seeing the adoption of 3D construction tech also being there at a smaller scale in Dholera, which is a semiconductor hub being developed in Gujarat, or at holiday homes where you cannot go deep into creating inroads or infrastructure, but you're already creating a township right in the middle of a hill. And those are the kind of infrastructures that we are going to see. So when we talk about Pune, we have to also talk about the entire investment that goes outward to the entire Konkan belt. And when you talk about the entire Konkan belt, I feel because the premium for the developer is so much, even if the cost is a little higher and the delivery of speed is more, these kind of technologies can make a lot of sense in creating an initial ecosystem in those markets and then create a ripple effect for that entire micro market.
So not just commercial, but non-core city residential is also
Absolutely,
perhaps
absolutely. Like real estate over the
area.
last 5 years is not just commercial and residential. Like Anurag talked about experience. Experience is not just limited to the city that you are operating at. You can go 100 kilometers, 50 kilometers and take experience and create experience. And the creation of that experience can be facilitated by technologies like these.
Very well said, very well said.
I think the biggest challenge with 3D printing today is the inability to go vertical. So, given the abundance of FSI in cities and land prices, etc., I think vertical scale is important for affordability. And till we are not able to, master that technology and create structural durability, I think it's still quite far away.
It's a WIP
Yeah.
in that sense. No, but what I like about it is the experimentation is happening. The experimentation is reaching pretty much every office. Experimentation is sort of inspiring all of us to try and sort of do more, assess at least. Right, I remember a time not too long ago when pit puzzle parking used to be called an experiment. I mean, it's a norm now, right? And it's been not been that many years either, right? So yeah, in all of your opinions, when we are talking about budget, we were talking about affordable and things like that. Then we went into the luxury, which is midsection. which is the fastest moving, sort of lowest hanging fruit, so to speak, when it comes to selling. But the subject given by Realty Plus also speaks about bespoke, right? And when you're talking bespoke, in India's context, everything was bespoke. Even today, we get a carpenter home and get the furniture made, which is unbelievable in other countries, right? Though we also find the novelty of IKEA and do it yourself, but bespoke is natural, normal, and still a norm in this fast-paced world. According to you, do you think it pulls at the repetitiveness that is required to keep the costs in check for the kind of real estate that all of us do in a city like Pune? Can you genuinely give a bespoke product / service to a customer, whatever is the price band, right? And we've seen price bands extend up to even 8 or 10 or 12 or 18 crores in this city. Few and far between, but we've seen those. Is that really bespoke, or is it just ultra luxury thanks to the location, thanks to the finishes? What is all of your opinion on this other end of the spectrum, which in volume may be small, but value and influence is massive, massive? And sir, again, I would want to start with you, because Amanora, as a rule, has always been head and shoulder above everybody else in that micro market when it came to pricing, when it came to innovation, be it Swarovski, be it the way those buildings look like. Those buildings are bespoke, right? So what were you guys thinking about when we couldn't even, I didn't know the word bespoke.
They're just buildings, 180 meters height building, 150 was the limit. So that's what the, and that building got sold before we sort of got a RERA kind of thing. So height is important for the economics and kind of living you want. But then this experimentation we should do. There are, like I said, for a small CRS kind of a building, we can do this, 3-print this thing. But for a bigger township to be viable, we need to have those high-rise building. And we have a mix of bungalows, which thing, but it's very little. And well, I think the future is in high-rise, make mass produce this thing, and to make it, you use of technology, then you give a lot of comforts, then you can give gardens on the top floor, a bungalow tucked in a 23rd floor or something. And these are the things which are, there are people who want to buy also. So while doing that, I always feel that on a PMI, we are doing very little in Maharashtra. Every government has failed. Private mein koi kar nahi raha hai such thing. There has to be some kind of, that's where the government can incentivize and make this PMRD people to work with the private sector to bring good quality, volume, and this kind of thing. So that's what I see today.
So specialized islands of luxury in a mass-produced situation. What's your sense on that word? I mean, how would you do it if you had to do it? How do you do it when you have to do it?
So we've heard about DLF Camellias, 100 crores homes selling like hotcakes, and they're getting sold out in the flash of a week or a month. So I think as a developer, we at Goel Properties, we typically are into mid-income housing. So we don't currently are not looking at getting into development which is more in the higher end segment. But from what I've understand from the needs of the buyer, and maybe say if I'm a buyer and if I have to buy a home, so I'm looking at finishes and everything is just okay, like, that anything can be done. But what kind of a built environment is there? Like what kind of features, not in terms of amenities, but like Anurag mentioned about the experience. How me or my family, my kids are going to enjoy the space that is being created. So that is something which is very important. And for me to able to spend some more time with my kids in the premises of the building, which is going to add a lot of value in my life, like because creating those memories with them is something that is the kind of infrastructure that I would want to create, wherein the inhabitant is not wanting to send his children for say for a tennis class to some academy or this academy somewhere outside of the premises, but everything is there. So that's actually like, that will be bespoke for me, like, you know, because I'm able to spend more time with my family. And yes, the finishes and the size of the apartments, that is fine, like, you know, that is available everywhere. But this aspect of it is something which is not available everywhere, and if that I get, that is a bespoke apartment for
So
me.
bespoke lifestyle.
Yes.
Lifestyle. Nitin, your take on this?
See, bespoke, and when we talk about, creating larger societies or communities, they are contradictory to each other. But I vaguely remember I did a campaign in 2019 with one of my projects, where at the pre-launch stage, I actually, ask my buyers to choose their amenities, what they want in the project. And I gained a lot of traction because of that power giving in the hand of customers. Ki what amenities, obviously we have given them a list of amenities, and out of that they have to choose. So, but having that power at the pre-launch stage where they are, booking an apartment and choosing that amenities is kind of, I can relate to a bespoke for them at a larger level, at a community level.
So a customized sort of
Yes.
experiential community.
So yes, so we have to get into that kind of zone, because today, everything is pre-decided by developer. Ki this is what we can give and this is the price. So obviously, if shifting of this power happens in a systematic way and in a structured way in the hand of customer, it will pave and gain a lot of traction from the consumers.
I'd like to add to that. I think I agree with everything what people have said here. I live 10 minutes from DLF Camellias, so I understand that experience really, really well. And about over the last couple of years of building this entire technology ecosystem of brokers and everything, last 6 months we entered into transactions, right? Because we really wanted to make sure that we actually bring that bespoke element in. I'll tell you why. So if you go to a DLF Camellias or a Aralias, Mongolias, or you go to any of the other DLF properties, though DLF is top-notch in construction when it comes to any other property as well as the Camellias and that entire Golf Links complex, the experience of being bespoke doesn't start when you enter the property, but when you first interact with the pre-sales guy, right? The problem with bespoke is that as soon as you scale bespoke, it doesn't remain bespoke, right? So how do you curate an experience? And I think a couple of developers across Pune have been able to do a great job, in which you look at 24K when it comes to Kolte Patil or Burgundy when it comes to new developers. You really have to understand, or one of the developers that I really feel is doing a great job is also Isprava Total Environment. You really have to choose how do you separate out the current value system that you have as a developer and create a new value system and amplify it well. And that amplification is not something that needs to be projected only in the construction that you're doing in your project, but also how you are training your brokers, how they are taking up that communication with that customer, which is actually wanting to experience bespoke and nothing that's standardized, and trailing it down to your team, then your entire post-sales experience, how you're integrating technology, how you're making sure that there is no miscommunication, because the kind of customers that you're now dealing with in this particular category are not essentially coming to buy your property. Like, I don't quote me for this, but if you look at the layout for DLF Camellias, it won't impress you. But that visit, that 3-hour long visit of that customer knowing, of that DLF personnel knowing everything about you, where you come from, it actually feels like that the person knows more about you and has amplified more about you than you can yourself, right? So that is something that all the developers, and possibly if you want to really experience that, you can also partner with Propacity, plugging myself there. But that is essentially what I really think, that the construction part of it is just about 30-40%, because the person will only understand what you are creating when you create the value system, and then you make sure that you integrate all the stakeholders across the pre-sales and post-sales cycle and create magic, right? And that's missing.
So a brand experience is what you're talking about, rather than standing on the rooftop and
I don't call it just
shouting
brand
that we are
experience, I call it the
exclusive
overall
luxury.
transaction experience.
Overall transaction
Yes.
experience. overall. I think we are at that point in time in our panel when I want to put you guys on spot. I need you to pick up. Each one of you, if you had 100 crores of kitty and you were to go out and buy or transact or JV or whichever other fancy model you can or the consultants can think of and engage into a land in the city of Pune, what would be your preferred location and what would be your ticket size, given that we're talking about the ticket sizes today? And let's start with you, because you're not a developer by the day, right?
No, I think I'll buy as much land as I possibly can near the Khadakwasla Dam, right? Because I really think there is a large potential with developers going non-hyper-local. You should only think of a micro market. Like, I fail to understand why is Dubai, right? Only because there is this one government who really operated like a developer and said that, boss, the world is my market, right? So I genuinely think that that micro market, when it comes to Khadakwasla or anything, like if you look at India, it's holiday homes, greenfield infra, industrial cities, you have religious markets, you have tier 1.5, which was, say, as different micro markets. So you have just given me 100 crores, so I'm talking about one micro market, which is about 45 minutes from Pune's airport, Khadakwasla. And I think I can easily sell every villa for about 4 to 5 crores there.
So a luxury, but not city central kind of a luxury.
Yeah.
But 100 crores will take you a fair amount of acreage over there, doesn't?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
exactly.
Unless somebody else.
See,
wants to buy
I
on the
believe
boat club
any
road or
developer
whatever.
which is not working upon increasing their margins and rapidly increasing it will have a really, really hard time over the next 3-4 years.
I think I'm going to ask the same question to you first before I come to the rest of them.
So I sort of agree with your opinion, but if I was given that choice, I would go ahead and buy that land in Koregaon Park, because what we've seen and what I've noticed with Pune is that there has been exponential growth in the last few years, and Pune really hasn't seen a real luxury product in the center of the city, like DLF Camellias or the numerous projects in Hyderabad or Bangalore, etc. and all of that. And I think there is tremendous scope in that, and I think there would be tremendous demand for that kind of a product in the city.
So bespoke end of the
Yes.
spectrum, and a city center kind of
City
a
center,
location,
yes.
like a sexy sounding city
Yeah.
center. Good idea. Bhosle sir, what would you do?
Actually, I'll go beyond Khadakwasla also. After seeing Lavasa very closely, and its success and failure both I watched closely, part of this thing. But there are places like Varasgaon where there are 50, 60 acre lands, blocks are available for this thing. And I'm helping one of the fellow to set up something there. And it's a paradise to stay there if you have a very simple house, but all the facilities are available and the connections. I mean, work from home. If my son wants to work from home, he can do it from there also. So that is what I will do if he have to buy a second house.
What would Goyal Properties do? Where would you go?
I would buy land close to Pune, between Pune and Mumbai, say maybe close to the stadium, Mamurdi, for example. And that would get me about good 40-50 acres of land, and I would be able to create a project which is surrounded, which is a core as wellness as core of it, and create an ecosystem over there wherein the overall aspiration of a bespoke that I think is not just in terms of value, but I'll be able to provide that at a much affordable pricing. And it has good connectivity, it has good infrastructure, it is sustainable, because it's a pledge that we've taken that all our projects are green projects. Lucky for us that we've completed like one project which is platinum certified in terms of getting it completed post certification, and under construction, so definitely we have a couple of them more. So yeah, my bet will be on Mamurdi, between Pune and Mumbai, basically close to Pune, where I could create a beautiful space for the
So
inhabitants.
growth market closer to the sweet spot.
Yes.
Nitin?
Mohit, is that a hint you are coming up with new project in Mamurdi and trying to sell it over here?
Nitin is going to sell for you. No, but
Yes or
Nitin,
no?
what would you? what would you do with your 100 crores? Because just like Rahul, you don't do this for a living, right? I want to know, where would you put your money?
I am a punter by nature. So I will never put my money in Koregaon Park, Baner, or Kharadi. If I have to take a contrarian bet, yet an intelligent bet, I will like to go close to and believe in the Purandar airport story. So I believe any city or any, be it Gurgaon, be it Bengaluru, not Bengaluru price up, or you see now the Panvel story unfolding, Navi Mumbai story unfolding. If Purandar airport story unfolds, and which probably will, as far as I have trust in Devendra Fadnavis, I think we will see a lot of price appreciation, and it will be a multi-bagger area to invest in.
Guys, take notes. How about you?
As Pune's connectivity is increasing day by day through metros, through expressways, through all the ring roads, I would really like to focus all the developers on the peripheral areas of the city, because those are the areas where we can buy land which are little cheaper than the central part of the city, and yet they are connecting to the city. So customer can also get a product at a very affordable and a good price with lot of amenities and remaining away from the hustle bustle of the city. So any areas like Vagoli is the area, like Talegaon, Kevle, the peripheral areas, I think where connection is getting built day by day through metros, through expressways, that would be my point where next growth is going to happen.
What I like to sort of take from all of this is that... Oh, you're putting me on spot. I have been rather obsessed with South Pune right now because of the third phase of metro. Dhankaudi, if it had land, hypothetically, I would love it. But because it doesn't, I would be happy to buy everything in Ambega, literally everything right now.
See, one thing, again, I like to add about the investment. We are seeing one city, one price, and we are moving towards that direction. So where the prices are low, those areas will catch up. Even if you look at Mumbai, now there was a time when in Sobo, prices were 2 lakh, 3 lakh rupees square feet, and people used to look at Bandra and Andheri with like, boss, who will go and live there? Now you look, even Andheri and Bandra are even at the level of Sobo or even higher in certain territories.
No, I totally
So,
agree
and
with
same
you.
trend we are seeing in Pune also.
Yeah, we definitely are seeing it. No, but what I would want to take away from this sort of 6 panelists, one is saying city center is rocking. There are 2 of you who are willing to take bets which are slightly away from the city and saying, guys, that's where you're going to get most bang for the buck. And there are then a couple of you who are essentially saying that fringes where the maximum business happens is a great place to be. It gives me a lot of happiness that our city therefore feels so robust, right? It's a growth city and we are all very fortunate to be a part of this real estate market. With that, thank you very much. It says time's up, so if I can hand it over to you.
I genuinely wish there were more than 24 hours in a day, but then on that note, आप लोग और जोर से ताली बजा सकते हो for this very, very, very fascinating panel. Thank you so much. And on that note, I'll also request Bhavya Trivedi, CBO Insomniacs, to please kindly join me on stage and give away the token of appreciation to all our esteemed speakers over there. Everybody, once again, please, if I may request, ek aur baar zor se taali for all the wonderful, wonderful insights that they have shared from their end. Thank you so much. And extremely, extremely thankful to all of you for taking out time and being with us over here today. Thank you. Give it up for Bhavya as well, please, everybody. Ladies and gentlemen, he's come to give away the token of appreciation to all of us over here. photo. If I may request all of you to please kindly come forward and do a nice group photo, all of you over here. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the moment that we need to appreciate. Everybody, please, if I may request, zor se bajaiye tali. Show the wonderful spirit that Pune is known for. Thank you.